Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. They say every marriage has its secrets, but I never imagined mine would unravel in one wild, unforgettable night that left me shaking, not from fear, but from the kind of truth you can't unsee. My name is Ul, and I thought I knew everything about my wife, Marissa. I thought we had one of those perfect American love stories, the kind that starts with a spark, burns through years of laughter and little fights, late-night drives, shared dreams, all of it. But then came that one night, that night, when everything turned upside down. It started like any normal evening. We were getting ready for a dinner party at our friend's house. Marissa looked stunning, that red dress she knows I love, that perfume that always takes me back to the first time we danced under the stars. Everything felt right. But something was off. I noticed the way she was glued to her phone, the sudden way she'd stop texting when I walked in the room, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I told myself not to overthink it. I've always trusted her. But my gut, it wouldn't shut up. And when she said she was running out for a quick errand before we left, I followed. I know it sounds crazy, but something in me needed answers. What I saw changed everything. She wasn't cheating. At least, not in the way you'd expect. What she was doing was something darker. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a plan. A setup. And I was the target. But here's where it gets interesting. I didn't confront her. Not then. I played along. Smiled through dinner. Held her hand like nothing happened. I was calm, quiet, too quiet. And that's when my own plan began to take shape. That night, I gave her what she didn't expect. Sweet revenge. Not loud, not violent, but slow, deliberate, and unforgettable. The kind of revenge that shakes a person to their core, makes them question every step they ever took. It was romantic in a twisted way, my way of reclaiming the story she tried to rewrite without me. But what I did, well, that's the part you'll have to see for yourself. Let's just say it ended with her trembling, not from fear, but from the realization that the man she thought she had wrapped around her finger had been watching and waiting all along. Stay tuned, because what happened next will flip everything you thought you knew about love, betrayal, and the kind of passion that doesn't end when the truth comes out, it starts there. She didn't know I saw her. That's the part that kept echoing in my head as I watched her laugh at the dinner table, sip wine, lean into me like everything was normal. Marissa had always been good at pretending. I just never realized how good. We were that couple people envied. Romantic road trips, spontaneous kisses, matching mugs in our kitchen. But now, all of that felt like a movie someone else was watching, and I was stuck behind the screen, alone, realizing the woman I loved had her own script. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. She acted like the night before never happened. Her kisses were soft, casual, like clockwork. But behind those kisses, I felt the distance. The guilt. Maybe. Or maybe she thought I was still in the dark. I wasn't. And that gave me power. I started going back through little things. The late nights at work. The sudden interest in privacy. The locked drawers. I never checked them before. I trusted her. But now. I was wide awake. Every detail became a clue. Every smile she gave me felt like a test. One afternoon, while she was out, supposedly with a friend, I opened that drawer. Inside was a small black notebook. Innocent enough. But when I flipped through it, what I found nearly stopped my heart. Dates, places, names. Mine included. And beneath some of those entries, phrases like, "Watch how he reacts," and "Don't let him see it coming." What was this? A game? Some twisted relationship test? Or something deeper, darker? I didn't want to believe it. But something told me, this wasn't new. This went back months. Maybe even before our last anniversary. Maybe even before she looked me in the eyes and told me I was the only man she'd ever love. I put everything back. Perfectly. She'd never know I saw it. Because I needed more time. I needed her to think she still had control. Because if there's one thing Marissa loved more than romance, it was the feeling of being a step ahead. But she wasn't. Not anymore. The night she planned for me. The one she thought would leave me broken. She didn't know I was planning something too. Something unforgettable. Every moment after that felt like a slow-motion act on a stage I never auditioned for. Marissa, still so effortlessly graceful in her movements, had no idea I was watching her through a new lens now, one that caught every hesitation in her voice, every pause between her words, every glance she thought was hidden. And still, I played my part like a man in love. I kissed her forehead when she walked by, helped her with the dishes, even made her coffee the way she liked it. But under that quiet routine, a storm had started building. One neither of us spoke about, but both of us could feel. I started noticing the patterns. She'd leave every Tuesday night claiming yoga class, but there was never a mat in the car. Her phone was locked tighter than Fort Knox. And then there were the calls, short ones, in the other room, with her voice lower than usual. She never looked guilty, though. That's what kept throwing me off. If she was playing a game, she was confident. But why? I kept going back to that notebook. One page stuck with me. The date was circled in red, 2 weeks from now, with the words, "End it clean." No details. Just that chilling line. Was she planning to leave? Was this whole thing some kind of slow exit strategy? I didn't know. And maybe that's what scared me the most, the not knowing. But what I did know was that she wasn't just walking away from a marriage. She was rewriting a story we built together. And I wasn't going to let her end it the way she wanted. Not without the truth coming out. Around this time, I reconnected with an old friend of ours, Megan. She and Marissa had drifted apart a year ago, something about a misunderstanding at a party. But Megan had always had sharp instincts. When I casually mentioned the notebook, without giving too much away, Megan's reaction said it all. Her smile faded. She leaned in. "Oh. You should be careful. You don't know the full story." That one sentence opened a door to a whole other angle. Maybe this wasn't about just us. Maybe someone else was pulling strings. Maybe Marissa wasn't even acting alone. From that night on, I started keeping a second phone. I recorded little things, conversations, timestamps, the shift in her tone when she spoke about work stress. I even followed her once. She drove out past the city, to a cafe we used to go to years ago. But she wasn't alone. A man met her there. Mid-40s, clean cut, looked familiar. I stayed hidden across the street, phone in hand, watching her laugh like I hadn't seen her laugh in weeks. And for a second, I almost felt heartbroken. Almost. But I wasn't done watching. Not yet. It had been days since I saw her at that cafe. Since I watched her smile in a way I hadn't seen in months. Since I sat in that parked car, gripping my phone, feeling something deep in my chest crack open. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to know more. I needed to understand why. Who was he? What did he have to do with us, with me? Back home, things felt like a slow dance in the dark. Marissa was softer with me now, almost like she was overcompensating. Her voice sweeter, her touch warmer. She curled into my side at night like she still belonged there. But I couldn't relax. Not when I knew the countdown had started. That red-circled date in her notebook was now only 3 days away. She didn't know I had followed her again. This time, to a sleek downtown office building. She stayed for almost 2 hours. I waited, watching from the alley. When she came out, she wasn't alone. Same man. This time, they weren't laughing. They were arguing, quiet but intense. Her hand moved as she talked. His jaw was tight. He grabbed her wrist for a moment. She yanked it back and walked fast toward her car. He didn't follow. I snapped a photo. Not for evidence, but for myself. A reminder that there was more to this story than just betrayal. There was something bigger happening, and I was caught in the middle of it. This wasn't just a marriage falling apart. This was a setup. A plan. And I was the piece she hadn't expected to fight back. That night, I laid next to her, eyes wide open. Her breathing was calm. Peaceful. Like she had nothing to hide. My phone buzzed, a message from Megan. Just 4 words, I found something. Urgent. I quietly slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. I called her. What is it? I whispered. Al. That man she's meeting, she said. He's not who you think. He has a history. And your name came up more than once. The line went silent for a second. My heart pounded. I think Marissa's in deeper than you know, Megan said, voice low. And I think you're the last one who's supposed to find out. And right then, I heard Marissa behind me. Who are you talking to? She asked softly. I turned slowly, phone still to my ear. Everything was about to explode. I didn't answer her right away. I just looked at her, standing in the hallway with that calm, almost sleepy look in her eyes, like she hadn't just flipped my entire world upside down. My phone was still pressed to my ear, Megan's voice faint on the other end. But I didn't speak. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I saw it again, that perfect mask Marissa wore so well. The one I'd fallen in love with. The one that now felt like a lie. I asked you something, she repeated gently, taking a step forward. Who are you talking to? I lowered the phone slowly. Just Megan. She was checking in. There was a flicker in her eyes, something between curiosity and caution. At midnight. I forced a smile. She couldn't sleep. Marissa didn't press. She simply nodded and walked over to pour herself some water, her robe slipping slightly off one shoulder. The whole moment felt too normal. Too staged. And yet, the air was heavy. Full of things unsaid. I watched her silently, heart pounding, replaying Megan's words in my head. He's not who you think. Your name came up more than once. The next day, I dug deeper. I took the photo I had of the man from the cafe, and ran a background search through an old friend of mine who worked in private security. Hours later, I got a name. Daniel Cross. Ex-consultant. Fired from a firm 2 years ago. No criminal charges, but flagged in connection to several lawsuits involving emotional manipulation, blackmail, and marital interference. I sat there staring at my screen, the pieces finally starting to fit. This wasn't just about love or betrayal. This was bigger. Strategic. Almost like someone had been trying to pull my life apart, brick by brick. And Daniel wasn't just some affair. He was part of something. Or maybe the one directing it. But the biggest shock hit me when I opened the next file attached to the report. A contract. Signed by Marissa. The document was vague. Something about participation in behavioral observation under confidentiality. But the dollar amount at the bottom was clear. $75,000. I felt my stomach twist. She was paid. For this. For us. I heard the door open just then, Marissa coming back from her usual errand. I quickly closed the file and stood up. She walked in, smiling, holding a small bag. Got your favorite, she said, lifting the takeout. But all I could hear was that number in my head. 75,000. What did she sell? Our story. Our memories. Me? I took the bag, pretending nothing had changed, even as my hands trembled. Because now I knew, this wasn't just a lie. It was a setup. And I was about to rewrite the ending. I didn't sleep that night. I laid next to her again, just like before, pretending everything was fine while my mind raced. I kept seeing that number in my head. $75,000. What kind of love comes with a price tag? Every kiss, every soft laugh, every moment we'd shared, was any of it real? The contract didn't mention me by name, but the dates lined up. The timelines matched. She had signed it right before our second anniversary. The next evening, I invited her to our favorite rooftop bar, the place where I proposed. She didn't suspect anything. She smiled like this was some spontaneous romantic gesture. Dressed up, red lipstick, same charm in her voice. She had no idea I knew. No idea I had printed the contract and folded it neatly inside my jacket. We sat under the string lights, the city glowing behind her, and I let her talk. She asked about my day. I smiled. Said I missed her lately. She leaned in, touched my hand. I've missed you too, Ul. I almost believed her again. Almost. I reached into my jacket slowly and slid the paper across the table. She stared at it, then at me. What is this? She asked. You tell me. She opened it. And for the first time, I saw her lose control. Her hand trembled slightly. She folded the paper back, her lips parting like she wanted to lie, or explain, or both. I was desperate, she said finally, voice low. You were pulling away from me. I didn't know how to fix us. So you sold us. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. That's when I dropped the second envelope. Photos. Her with Daniel. The cafe. The office. The moment he grabbed her wrist. You think I didn't know? I said calmly. I've been watching everything. She didn't speak. Then I leaned in. I already transferred the money back to the company. Terminated the contract. And filed a breach report. They'll come looking for you, not me. Her eyes widened. You what? I stood up, heart pounding. You played the long game, Marissa. But so did I. And then I walked away. But just before I reached the stairs, she called out, almost shaking. You should have checked your name on the contract too. I turned. She was smiling now. Cold. Calm again. And that's when it hit me. She hadn't just played the game. She designed it. I didn't go back. After that night on the rooftop, I walked away and didn't turn around again. Not even when I heard her voice echo behind me. Whatever game Marissa had started, whatever twisted version of our love she'd sold for profit or power, it was done now. The truth was out. I wasn't the man she thought she could control. And I wasn't the same man who brought her coffee every morning, blind to the cracks forming beneath our perfect routine. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled quickly. The firm behind the contract pulled out. Daniel Cross vanished, no surprise. A lawyer friend helped clean up the mess. My name stayed clear. Megan and I talked more. She'd known something wasn't right for a while, but couldn't prove it. Maybe deep down, she felt guilty for not warning me sooner. We weren't close enough for blame, but her loyalty now meant something. She helped me start over, not romantically, just honestly. I moved into a smaller place downtown. Not flashy. Just quiet. Clean. For the first time in months, I could sleep. I stopped checking Marissa's socials. Stopped asking mutual friends how she was. Whatever life she lived now was hers alone. No more illusions. Sometimes I still wonder what the truth really was. Did she ever love me? Were any of those nights real, the laughter, the long drives, the way she used to fall asleep against my chest? Or was that part of the performance too? I'll never know. And maybe that's the point. We build relationships on trust. But once that breaks, no amount of love, no amount of money, can put it back the same way. If you've ever loved someone who turned out to be a stranger, you know what that feels like. But I survived. I rebuilt. And that's where my story ends, not in heartbreak, but in clarity. If you made it this far, tell me, was justice served? Should there be a sequel? Would you forgive someone like Marissa, or walk away for good? Let me know in the comments. I'm listening.